Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Today, the game is different.
I want to gamble. Gambling is a very serious business. Is that clear?
Welcome to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you here, deep from the swamps of Jersey. We got a great show coming up for you. Since 2018, the sports betting industry has exploded in the United States. Whenever you turn on a TV or a radio, you're probably going to hear an advertisement for sports betting within a couple of minutes. So in terms of sports betting, where did it come from? Where is it going? And what is its effect on some people who bet on sports? Well, a new book tackles that issue. It's called Losing Big, America's Reckless Bet on Sports Gambling, and it's written by returning guest Jonathan Cohen. Jonathan's going to tell us some compelling stories about the effects of sports betting on some bettors and about where sports betting is going in the future. When we come back, we're talking with Jonathan Cohen about the effects and possible future of sports betting. So stick around. We'll be right back with House of Cards.
You may want to attend college,
but you have a full-time job and kids that need your full-time attention.
How can you possibly attend college?
You learn online at South University.
Earn your degree while you still earn a paycheck.
Take care of your future while you take care of your children.
Earn your degree any hour, any day, from anywhere.
And the credit transfer policies also make it easier to return to college.
Earn your degree online from instructors who go way beyond the classroom to help their students change their lives.
And help their students change the lives of their children.
Learn online at South University.
Call 800-829-8056.
College is a road to your destination.
And every journey begins with a starting point.
Start from South University Online.
The convenience of taking classes where you want.
The flexibility of taking classes when you want.
So you can become who you want.
South University Online.
Call 800-829-8056. That's 800-829-8056.
Hey, this is Dave Weishuttle from House of Cards with your House of Cards gaming report for the week of May 5th, 2025. In March, New Jersey's online casino profits were $243.9 million, an increase of 23.7% from this time last year. The $673.3 million three-month income total is nearly a 20% increase from the same time period in 2024. According to the Casino Control Commission, March marked the 7th straight month where online gambling revenue in the Garden State topped $200 million. Delaware North announced a partnership with Fontainebleau Las Vegas to bring special offers at the resort to Delaware North Gaming Loyalty Club members. According to the agreement, more than 2.5 million members of the Delaware North's Lucky North Rewards loyalty program can receive complimentary or promotional stays at Fontainebleau as determined by program tiers. Delaware North's 40,000 global team members are also eligible for specially priced stays at the Las Vegas resort. And finally, Caesars Entertainment announced the launch of a brand new slot game for its online casino platforms entitled NBA Triple Double Power Combo. The slot was made possible through Caesars' partnership with the National Basketball Association. This marks the first time that Caesars online gaming platforms have offered official NBA branding and logos for a slot game. NBA fans should check it out. Any news or tips regarding casinos, gaming, or legislation, send us an email at newsroom@houseofcardsradio.com and follow us on X at HOC Radio.
You're listening to House of Cards. Check us out at houseofcardsradio.com.
We must get her back.
I'll be satisfied if we get her half back.
I'll take a quarter back. In fact, I'll take Notre Dame in 2 points.
Oh, you want 2 points?
I certainly do.
Well, you got 'em.
Oh!
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you here. House of Cards is brought to you by BetMGM Casino. Play your favorite casino games at BetMGM Online Casino. Go to BetMGM Casino, create an account using our promo code Turnpike, and become a verified player. New players get $25 free when signing up, plus a first deposit bonus up to $1,000. That's promo code Turnpike at BetMGM.com for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus $25 free. Must be 21 years or older to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Since 2018, sports betting in this country has exploded. More than half of the states have expanded their gaming laws to include sports betting. And it seems like you can't turn on the TV or radio and not hear a sports betting commercial. But how did sports betting evolve, and what effect does it have on the people who bet? Well, a new book is looking at that issue. It's called Losing Big, America's Reckless Bet on Sports Gambling, written by Jonathan Cohen. And we are lucky to have Jonathan on the line with us right now. Jonathan, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on the new book. I mean, you were on before when we were talking about your book about the lottery industry called For a Dollar and a Dream, State Lotteries in Modern America, which was really eye-opening, the same way your new book is eye-opening on the issue of sports betting. What motivated you to write your new book, Losing Big, America's Reckless Bet on Sports Gambling, and what did you hope to convey to the reader about sports betting?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a sports fan, for a long time, and I started work on the lottery book in 2015, and then, I'm sure we'll discuss, the Supreme Court decision that opened the floodgates for sports betting happened in 2018. And I'm a good interviewee, as I hope you'll agree. When I did press for the lottery book, I knew that people were going to ask about the Supreme Court decision, so I sort of studied up on it.
Okay,
and it seemed like, I mean, maybe you got the same sense around 2021, 2022. It seems like things were really changing. Mm-hmm. It seems like they were, because of the rise of sports gambling, it was sort of all of a sudden everywhere, and it was leading to a sort of transformation of American sports, American society, and American culture. And I really didn't have much more to go on than that, other than like, hey, this is kind of weird. Like, maybe this is even going to be a problem. And just with that sort of sense, I wanted to investigate. And the product of that investigation really is the book. And the book was sort of an excuse, a way to channel my curiosity and try to explain, as you've said, sort of the causes and consequences of what happened.
You mentioned it, and prior to 2018, when the U.S. Supreme Court repealed the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, and that's known as PASPA in the industry, what did sports betting in the United States look like? Certainly we know Nevada had sports betting, but, a lot of people didn't know Oregon and Delaware had some interesting sports betting laws on their books. What was the sports betting landscape prior to 2018?
Yeah, I would say, and so I'll even put aside Oregon and Delaware because, like, who lives there? No offense to your listeners who do live there. But I would say, sort of writ large, the sports betting landscape looked like, Nevada, as you've alluded to, and then most of the rest of it was illegal. Yeah. People betting with offshore casinos, people betting with their local bookie, and then starting in the mid 2010s, and this is sort of I think the hinge point, at least sort of culturally speaking, with you see the rise of daily fantasy sports, which, even fantasy sports is not gambling, but it sort of looks like gambling. And daily fantasy sports, technically, legally, was not gambling, but sure looks a lot like gambling. And I think around the mid 2010s, you see this sort of sea change where it seems like only a matter of time before actual formal technical sports betting goes online, because people are basically already betting, not just those who are already betting illegally, but even people who never would have dreamed of tracking down a bookie and placing a few bucks on the Jets or something.
It's interesting that you talk about fantasy sports and daily fantasy, and that almost led the way to sports betting to become legal. I remember prior to 2018, I was talking to someone in the state legislature, and he specifically said that daily fantasy sports is a gateway drug to sports betting, which I thought was an interesting way to put it. And if you look at it, some of the big daily fantasy sport platforms are the biggest sports betting platforms out there. But in your opinion, could we ever have had sports betting if it wasn't for daily fantasy sports? Did daily fantasy sports actually lead us to sports betting?
Culturally, yes. Mm-hmm. Legally, no. The way we actually got to sports betting technically had nothing to do with daily fantasy sports, mm-hmm. right? The way we got to sports betting was the state of New Jersey making 3 different attempts to go to the Supreme Court and to get the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act overturned. And finally, on the 3rd attempt, after sort of a Hail Mary appeal, the Supreme Court heard the case and overturned PASPA so that New Jersey could legalize sports betting if it wanted to. Nowhere in the decision do they talk about the specifics of daily fantasy sports, and really the decision isn't actually about gambling at all, right? It's really about the 10th Amendment and about states' rights. But so while that sort of legal maneuvering is happening, certainly sort of culturally speaking, I don't know if sports betting would be as big as it is today were it not for daily fantasy sports, both culturally sort of raising the profile of gambling, but also, as you've already alluded to, the fact that DraftKings and FanDuel, which are today the two largest sports betting companies, have everyone's email address. They had, all the daily fantasy sports email address. They had name recognition. They had credit cards on file. They had everything you would want to get online sports betting up and running already in place, thanks to this sort of previous era from DFS.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Rated in the best hearing aids of 2024, the Audien Atom 2 series offers superior sound quality and functionality for a fraction of the price. For just $189 a pair, the Atom 2 features 4 different hearing modes for all types of hearing loss. It packs crystal clear sound, a nearly invisible design, and is even rechargeable.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids. They're so comfortable, I forget I'm wearing them. And the sound is amazing.
The Atom Pro 2 is our smallest hearing aid yet, featuring advanced background noise cancellation, and is the world's first hearing aid with built-in UV cleaning that kills 99% of bacteria.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed without seeing a doctor or having a hearing test.
Join over 500,000 happy customers today and get the hearing you deserve.
Call 1-800-457-0924 or go to audienhearing.com to get your pair of Audien hearing aids starting at just $189.
Sometimes life is wonderful, and sometimes it's not. Cherish the good, but always be prepared for life's challenges. At Private Healthcare, we provide the peace of mind you deserve. With Private Healthcare, you'll get the coverage you want and healthcare you need. If your employer doesn't supply healthcare coverage and you don't qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, you need to give us a call right now. Private Healthcare is private health insurance for ages 65 and under with medical, dental, vision, and even prescription coverage. When life comes at you unexpectedly, you need to be ready. And health insurance is your financial safety net. Health insurance has never been so easy and affordable. If you're looking for health coverage at the best price and your annual household income is $35,000 or more, give us a call at 800-733-6860. 800-733-6860.
You're listening to House of Cards.
I'm talking sick piles of money. I'm talking lay on your bed in your Vegas room, throw the money in the air, and dance as it showers down on you money. I'm talking frosted glass limo money. I'm talking big cowboy hat, silver turquoise buckle money. I'm talking gambling.
I am in love with you.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you. House of Cards is brought to you by BetMGM Casino. Play your favorite casino games at BetMGM Online Casino. Go to BetMGM Casino, create an account using our promo code Turnpike, and become a verified player. New players get $25 free when signing up, plus a first deposit bonus up to $1,000. That's promo code Turnpike at BetMGM.com for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus $25 free. Must be 21 years or older to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Jonathan Cohen, author of Losing Big, America's Reckless Bet on Sports Gambling. Being a lawyer in 2018 in New Jersey, I remember the case that repealed PASPA. And one of the points a couple of points that New Jersey was making is, you know what, sports betting is happening anyway. We should be able to regulate it and make money for the citizens of New Jersey and also provide help for people who need it with regard to problem gambling through state-funded programs. I'm sure that became the basis for every argument for every state who wanted sports betting. I mean, certainly the state is making money, and I know a lot of states are going through the process of sending cease and desist letters to offshore providers. But have the states been sufficiently helping the people who need help with regard to problem gambling?
I mean, it's always going to be subjective.
Yeah.
I would say no. And the thesis of the book is, and you already shared the title, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But the key word, I think, in the title of the book is reckless,
mm-hmm.
which is, I think sports gambling should be legal. And I think I'm no lawyer in New Jersey. I'm not to mention a lawyer in New Jersey, but I do think that the Murphy decision was sort of correctly decided.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think sports betting should be legal. But I think the specific way it was rolled out was reckless.
Yeah.
And we did not, at least initially, and I would say even now, have enough protections in place to really differentiate the legal regulated market from the illegal market in terms of player protection. So no, I don't think we're doing enough. I think we could be doing more, and I think we should be holding legal providers to a higher standard than what we hold, these illegal offshore providers.
It's interesting that you stated how the states were rolling it out, and I loved your chapter on how Colorado rolled it out. I mean, they had to get through the process of presenting it to their citizens, and they used the issue of water to help pass sports betting in the state. Has that been the trend for a lot of states, attaching issues to sports betting legislation to help convince people of the potential benefits of allowing sports betting in the state?
Well, they pronounce it water out there.
I know. I say New Jersey guys put R's in water. So that's right. How I say water. Water.
Water.
Water.
Yeah, I would not as much. I mean, I'll forgive you if you don't remember from our last conversation, but the lottery really, when the lotteries were passed, those were really sort of campaigns that hinged on the issue in question. The lottery is going to raise money for education, the lottery is going to raise money for public parks, whatever. Mm-hmm. Sports betting in most states was not a single issue.
Yeah.
Sort of a campaign like it was in Colorado, and Colorado was a unique case that I picked for a specific reason because it had a ballot initiative that sort of went before voters in addition to being passed by the legislature. But in most states, it was just passed by lawmakers themselves. It didn't need to go to a public vote, and the money isn't. Some of the money is allocated for specific causes, but in generally speaking, it's just going to the general fund. And I think the timing here is really auspicious of states that were just behind Colorado, which passed sports betting during COVID, when obviously states were sort of facing a severe budget crunch, and this was presented as free money into their laps. Professional sports got back online relatively quickly compared to other parts of society, so people would have a chance to bet on sports. And gambling has always been sort of dangled in front of lawmakers as a free source of tax revenue that doesn't require actual taxes. So even if it's not attached to a specific cause, it's always been appealing for the potential of, or the promise, I guess, the false promise of solving budgetary problems.
A great thing about your book is that you write about real people's stories and their experiences with sports betting. I mean, one person's story that was very chilling to me was someone named Andrew, who let sports betting get out of hand and really affect his entire life. Tell us something about Andrew, and how did sports betting affect him?
Yeah, and this is, I'll just caveat to say, this is like the 1% case. This is like, sort of an extreme case of gambling addiction, but I think a case that we should all become a little bit more comfortable with, because it's going to be happening a lot more, and it has been happening a lot more thanks to the sudden availability of online sports betting. But Andrew, to your question, grew up, in a household that you wouldn't expect someone to have a gambling addiction, a well-to-do suburban Connecticut household. And, big sports fan growing up, sure. Played DFS a little bit in the mid-2010s, sure. And then after college, started betting with his roommate's bookie. His roommates quit betting, and he just kept betting and kept betting and kept betting with his bookie, and in such a way that, and this is how gambling addiction works, where his dopamine pathways just got rewired, and he wasn't able to stop, and he was betting when he was in the shower, he was betting when he was driving, he would bet to get out of bed in the morning. He just needed action at all times, and lost $100,000 to his bookie, gets cut off. Okay, but he is addicted, so he's going to keep betting. He bets on offshore casino. Okay, he stops there, switches over to FanDuel, bets basically just as dangerously with FanDuel as he was doing with these other places. Gets a VIP host to entice him to keep betting with FanDuel, and then eventually, as you can imagine where this is going, crashes out, misses a couple mortgage payments, and all told over the course of a few years loses $330,000.
The one thing that was interesting regarding Andrew, for me anyway, was his relationship with the sportsbook and especially the VIP hosts in the industry. I know operators always say they keep an eye out for problem gambling, but my question to you is, what do they look out for? And explain how Andrew really slipped through the cracks of what the operators said they were looking for.
Right. So the operators do look out for things, but it's sort of in a really, really specific way. And if you don't say the right sequence of words, they're not going to flag you, because if you're losing money, they want to keep you on the platform. And so the operators will flag you if you say something like, I think I have a gambling problem, I can't control it, or, oh, I'm running out of money, can you front me some money because I want to bet until my paycheck comes in? If you make it really, really obvious and really, really clear that you have a gambling problem or that you're gambling beyond your means, they most likely will, in fact, cut you off. But unless it's all self-reported. So unless you say something like that, even though these companies have incalculable amounts of data about every single person who uses their platform, they could tell that Andrew was betting at 3 a.m. They could tell that he was betting on these minor tennis tournaments that he had no idea the names of the people he was betting on. They could tell, if they wanted to, that he was betting unsafely, but they don't. And the only sort of metric they use to decide if someone is an irresponsible gambler or an addicted gambler is someone sharing that information directly with a customer support representative or with a VIP host, because fundamentally the companies don't want to cut people off unless they absolutely have to.
One thing Andrew did was start chasing his losses, and in an attempt to get out of the hole he turned to parlays. And one thing everyone in the gaming industry says is that parlays don't build bankrolls; they build sports books, and certainly operators know this, because every one of them seems to be pushing parlays or as some kind of parlay builder. Is that the situation for people who have a gambling problem? They tend to chase their losses and in turn get deeper into a hole. And is that something that sports books and sports betting operators should be looking out for? And what is the criteria that sports books now have when they see something like this?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question, because I don't want to imply that everyone who builds a parlay is a gambling addict. Young people in particular, young bettors, have flocked to parlays because they're fun, and because it's sort of a way. A lot of these kids, they don't want to bet $100 to try to win $110. They want to bet $10 to try to win $15,000, even if the odds of that are, of course, so much more distant. So. But when it comes to problem gamblers, right, who and their attraction to these things, this is a unique feature of gambling addiction compared to other types of addiction, where someone who is addicted to alcohol or to drugs has no reason to expect that, if they just drink one more bottle of bourbon or whatever, it's going to cure them of their addiction. But it's not impossible for someone who has lost, $100,000 gambling to think, oh, if I win one bet, I could wipe my slate clean and I could be back to zero.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is part of the motivating impetus behind parlays is you can win big, and you could, in Andrew's case, try to wipe your slate clean. So when the sportsbooks push parlays, I don't think it's because they're trying to hook addicts. I think it's because, as you said, they make so much more money off of parlays, and if they can just get casual bettors to make parlays instead of making money line bets, they'll just make more money. But certainly for problem gamblers, it makes sense that they would flock to these long odds bets as their only hope of getting out.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side. Sign up at jackpot.com and you can bet on the world's best lotteries where the biggest jackpots are up for grabs. Powerball, Mega Millions, some of the biggest lotteries can be found at jackpot.com. Simply choose your lotto game, pick your numbers, or use their quick pick feature, and you're done. Sign up at jackpot.com with code DRAW24 and get a free lottery ticket with your first deposit. Jackpot.com, it's the world of lotto in your hand. Terms and conditions apply. You must be at least 18 years old and in the United States to play. Void where prohibited. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
With costs going up, Adam & Eve is the best deal around. With 50% off a sexy adult product at adamandeve.com. That's 50% off right now when you point the camera on your smartphone at the code on the screen. Don't get up. Just open your camera and point it at the screen. Hurry! You'll also get 10 free gifts, including free discreet shipping at checkout. This is your chance to get more for less. So scan now for 50% off plus 10 free gifts from adamandeve.com.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Your Majesty, the royal wrestlers await.
I'll bet on the little guy. How much? 3,000 guineas, 2 geese, and a duck. That's a foul bet.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you. House of Cards is brought to you by BetMGM Casino. Play your favorite casino games at BetMGM Online Casino. Go to BetMGM Casino, create an account using our promo code Turnpike, and become a verified player. New players get $25 free when signing up, plus a first deposit bonus up to $1,000. That's promo code Turnpike at BetMGM.com for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus $25 free. Must be 21 years or older to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Jonathan Cohen, author of Losing Big, America's Reckless Bet on Sports Gambling. I know a lot of sports betting operators talk about responsible gaming and make deals with companies to help gamblers with their problems, but in your opinion, are they doing enough regarding the issue, and are they doing it in a timely fashion? I read in your book, and I love the analogy that, you know, you're pulling people out of the river when you should be putting guardrails up to prevent them from going into the river. So is it timing of when they offer help, or is this a sufficient way to help with this issue of problem gambling?
Yeah, I mean, I think the timing is certainly right, and is certainly like the right issue. And I would love if the companies themselves sort of self-regulated and took this upon themselves. I'm skeptical that they're going to do so, which is why people think that it's going to have to happen through legislation, you know, at Congress or the state level. But the model that you've described, right, is of problem gambling as it currently exists is, if you run into trouble, call the hotline, we'll get you treatment. But of course, if you're calling the hotline, if you need treatment, you've basically probably already lost all of your money or enough of your money that, you know, you've recognized you had a problem, rather than, you know, if you think about how problem gambling works and how it develops, if you imagine it sort of as a slippery slope, but what if we put some speed bumps on the hill in the first place to stop people from sort of rolling down toward the bottom? Mm-hmm. So a VIP host, that's sort of already down the hill. That's for people who are already sort of sliding down. Yeah. But I think there are other solutions, and I'm sure we'll talk about sort of some regulatory ideas that would slow people down in the first place. And that's where I would like the gambling companies to either institute those themselves, or if they refuse to, for those to be imposed externally.
Do you think that the professional sports teams are doing enough in the realm of responsible gambling? I mean, anytime we hear something from a professional sports team, they bring up the term fan engagement. I mean, that was completely different prior to 2018, when the worst possible thing you could ever do in life is place a bet on a game. Nowadays, you can't turn on an NFL game without seeing sports betting advertisements and pregame shows sponsored by sports books and things like that. What should be the role of professional leagues, and are they doing enough with regard to responsible gambling policies in this country?
Yeah, I don't think. Well, so the role of professional sports leagues is really interesting, and I sort of wrote this chapter. It's sort of funny. I had to sort of fight to include this chapter about the NFL and its 180 about gambling in the book, and it's probably the one that I get the most questions about in interviews like this. People are the most curious sort of about this phenomenon, because, as you said, they know how virulently anti-gambling the sports leagues were before 2018, and what a complete 180 they've done since then.
Oh, by the way, I just want to say this week the NFL put out a job call for a part-time legalized sports betting researcher who's going to help develop storylines based on gambling lines. So
I should apply. That cool.
It's in California, and it's part-time, and it sounds like it'd be a fun job. But
I'm sure they'd love to have me over there. Yeah.
I mean, prior to 2018, this was unthinkable.
Right, and as you said, this was the foil, right? This was what the NFL and other leagues used to insist on their integrity. It was, you can trust the integrity of our products because we hate gambling, and we hate gambling so much. This was Roger Goodell in the middle of the concussion crisis calling gambling the number one threat to the integrity of football in the United States. And then, of course, after 2018, after the Supreme Court decision, now that they can make money off of it, they are making as much money off of it as they can, and sort of flipping the script and saying, no, this is not a matter of we need to keep gambling at bay, but the way to protect the integrity of our game is to keep gambling close and to make money off of it and to monitor it and to have it in a legal, regulated, parentheses, profitable marketplace. So that's what they insist on now. I guess I shouldn't badmouth my future employer if I'm going to apply for that job, but I'm not holding my breath.
Now, I know one of the big issues for the states is how the media portrays sports betting, and in particular, advertising for sports betting operators. I mean, where do you see this issue of advertising and sports betting going? I mean, you rightly pointed out in your book that, and it's something I do all the time, that if I have to read an advertisement for a sports book, I basically just have to say you have to be 21 years or older, and if you have a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Do you think more needs to be done with the issue of advertising, and does the media have a responsibility to do more with regard to sports betting advertising?
Yeah, and this will also be in response to your last question about sort of the role of the leagues and what they can do to sort of promote responsible gambling, or whether they're doing enough. I think the importance of advertising, people get annoyed by advertising, about everything. But I think they get particularly annoyed about sports gambling. But I think they sort of get it wrong, or they're annoyed for it for the wrong reason. Like I think a lot of people sort of see it as like, it's going to be a trigger for a problem gambler or whatever. My problem with sports betting advertising is that it is the primary tool by which sports betting is normalized, by which we are telling people, I would say especially young people, especially kids, that sports betting is a normal part of the sports fan experience, and that it is cool and glamorous and fun to bet on sports if you see Jamie Foxx like playing piano or whatever, and that it is something you should do, right? Like you should have your phone open with the DraftKings app while you're watching sports, because that is how one watches sports these days. So that's sort of my problem with sports betting advertising. Many other countries have banned gambling advertising either during sports games or even like during daytime hours to reduce the risk of kids getting exposed. But of course, as you've already mentioned, there are all sorts of things that aren't technically advertising that are doing the same thing. Like a product placement during a segment on a talk show, or during the game they say, these third inning stats are brought to you by FanDuel. So formal advertising is sort of only one piece of it. It's really just a matter of the integration of gambling branding as something we've now, some people don't even notice anymore, because it just, over the last 7 years, it's just been such a rapid change to what sports looks like.
Now, sports betting rules and regulations are handled primarily by the states. I mean, do you think at some point the federal government will have to get involved in sports betting? And right now, what are some of the proposals that are being floated by the federal government with regard to sports betting?
Well, let me ask you: does the federal government do anything anymore? I don't know. I don't like. What are the odds that Congress passes anything?
Yeah,
not to mention a sports betting bill. Not to mention a smart sports betting bill.
True. True.
So yes, as you said, the primary function falls to the states. But you're a lawyer, so you'll appreciate this, right? The Murphy decision, the Supreme Court was very explicit that Congress can regulate sports betting if it wants to. The specific way it was trying to do so through PASPA was unconstitutional, but Congress can regulate sports betting. There is a bill put forth by a public health advocacy group at Northeastern University, and Richard Blumenthal and Paul Tonko in the Senate and the House, respectively, called the Safe Bet Act, that would really, really clamp down on sports betting. And the goal here, or their stated goal, is to set a minimum floor under states. So it's like, okay, states can legalize sports betting if they want to, but they have to, they have to not let you bet with credit cards. They can only allow advertising during these hours. They can't let you deposit into your sports betting account more than this number of times in 24-hour period, and so on. Such that states that have few protections, like Florida, for example, would need to basically add some of those guardrails that they're choosing not to have. As I said, I don't know if Congress is going to pass anything anymore, not to mention sort of a smart sports betting bill. But from industry insiders I talked to, they do think that some federal action at some point is inevitable, whether it's the Safe Bet Act, whether it's sort of a watered down version of the Safe Bet Act. I think indications are that the Safe Bet Act is influential, not just at the congressional level, but even just like for copycats at the state level. Massachusetts, New York, and Illinois have all considered basically mini versions of it at the state level rather than federally imposed. So, again, my 3-year-old might be able to legally bet by the time that Congress passes something, but I do think some floor is coming. But in the meantime, it's going to be at the state level where there's the reckoning or the comeuppance or the buyer's remorse is going to be evident.
Does what's happening with sports betting affect other types of proposed gaming regulation? And certainly the big topic in the gaming world is online casinos. I mean, here in New Jersey, I see more online casino television commercials than I do sports books lately. And the one thing about online casinos is you can set an online slot game for a set number of spins and walk away and do errands, and it'll be playing even if you're not in front of it. How does the rules and regulations and policies of sports betting affect the future of iGaming and online casinos in other states?
Yeah, well, let me make a confession first, which is I started writing this book, and I talked to an advocate, a sort of an anti-gambling advocate, and he was basically like, sure, go ahead, write your sports betting book, but like it's already old news, and iGaming is the future, and iGaming is the real deal, and that iGaming is where the story is, and I think he's right in that, in the same way that the companies, DraftKings and FanDuel primarily, but not exclusively, in the same way that they used daily fantasy as a sort of a staging ground for sports betting, they're now using sports betting as a staging ground for iGaming. And iGaming, as you've noted, right, is not actually attached to anything in the real world, right? You can sort of the casino is always open because it's online, so you can get much more action and you can get it faster, and as a result, iGaming, online casinos, are so much more profitable for these companies than sports betting, which has sort of always been, going back to Vegas, a low margin business. So, there are all sorts of issues and all sorts of debates around iGaming, primarily related to this idea of cannibalization, as to whether the legalization of online casinos is going to take jobs away from people who work at in-person retail casinos, because people will just play on their phones instead of going into the casino. So that's why we don't have more states that have iGaming already. But that is certainly the new frontier, or the next frontier beyond sports betting, is trying to expand the marketplace. And the companies are certainly in favor of it, but there are all sorts of political issues that need to be sorted out around this cannibalization debate.
One issue that I think will be very important in the coming year, and one we talked about and I had interviews on in this show a lot, that'll be the issue of affordability. I know this concept is a big topic in the UK. To put it in its simplest forms, affordability is how much can a customer of a gaming platform afford to lose, and what is the responsibility of the gaming operator regarding that issue. What is your view of the issue of affordability, and do you think that will be something that gaming operators in the near future will have to contend with?
Yeah, this is a tricky one, because it's always going to be in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
Is fine art an issue of affordability? Should we be checking credit at the door of like fancy clothing stores to make sure that people can afford all the fancy clothes that they buy? We don't have affordability checks for other products. Should we have for gambling? Parentheses, gambling is different because it can be addictive and you can lose many mortgage payments, over the course of a couple hours or a couple minutes. But I'm in favor of some kind of affordability check, or at the very least a sort of a behavioral check. Flutter, which is FanDuel's parent company in the United Kingdom and in Ireland, has a limit on how much young people are able to bet. It's just sort of they log onto the app. You have to give them your social security number or whatever the equivalent is over there. And you say, oh, you're under 25. You can't bet more than X dollars. You can't spend more than X amount of time on the app and so on. So when it comes to affordability, I'm in favor of, generally speaking, folks who hit certain minimums betting or proving that they can afford what they bet, or even setting a ceiling for young people, especially, and saying, okay, you can't bet more than $1,000 no matter how hard you try. I'll say one reason I'm not like full throated in favor of affordability checks is Andrew, the problem gambler that we discussed earlier. He always made small deposits.
Yeah.
So he never made a large deposit that sort of triggered FanDuel's affordability check warning. Their affordability check warning is, of course, very, very high, and it's sort of intentionally designed so that it's not too sensitive. But I'm not sure that an affordability check would have caught him because, he had a good job as a lawyer in Connecticut and was making good money and was making, a couple $100 deposits at a time rather than a $10,000 deposit that might have been flagged. So I don't think they're a panacea. I don't think anything is really a panacea when it comes to something complicated like sports betting. But generally speaking, I think affordability and proving players can afford what they bet is a helpful and could be a helpful approach.
In the future, what do you think is in store for sports betting? Will we have new policies? Will the federal government become involved in sports betting in this country? What are some of the changes you think will occur in the sports betting industry? And what do you think are some of the changes that need to be made for the sports betting industry in the future?
Yeah, so the big one that's happening right now is this question of prediction markets, which are there are all sorts of prediction markets about like the election and now as of we're talking about who's going to be the next pope. But the Kalshi, one of the largest prediction market companies, has now expanded into single game contracts for NBA, NHL, MLB, and so on. And again, technically it's not betting because it's a prediction market, but it sure looks a lot like single game betting. So I think that is sort of a future question, particularly because these prediction markets are available in all 50 states, including in states that have not yet legalized actual sports betting. So the future, if anything was going to disrupt the current environment and the current setup of, FanDuel and DraftKings, which are basically a duopoly, it would be something crazy and new like prediction markets or like these sort of daily fantasy 2.0 games like Underdog and Prize Picks that are legal in some states that are also technically not sports betting, but of course actually sports betting. So I think the big question that the future holds is a actual formal definition of what gambling is and either a flowering of all sorts of gambling as a result or a restriction actually and a sort of clamping down on these not technically gambling, but of course actually gambling games and a sort of a return to sort of a core product that really puts sports betting even more in the limelight.
Jonathan, we're running out of time, but where can people pick up your book, Losing Big, America's Reckless Bet on Sports Gambling? And if you have a website or a social media address that you want to give out, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, you can find the book hopefully wherever, wherever books are sold, particularly online. And then my website, which has my contact information, and I keep it up to date with all the interviews I do and all the writing I do, is just jonathandcohen.com.
Jonathan Cohen, author of Losing Big, America's Reckless Bet on Sports Gambling. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about the book. It's an important and sobering look at the evolution of sports betting in this country and where it is possibly headed. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me back.
Stick around. We'll be right back with House of Cards.
With costs going up, Adam and Eve is the best deal around. With 50% off a sexy adult product at adamandeve.com. That's 50% off right now when you point the camera on your smartphone at the code on the screen. Don't get up. Just open your camera and point it at the screen. Hurry! You'll also get 10 free gifts, including free discreet shipping at checkout. This is your chance to get more for less. So scan now for 50% off plus 10 free gifts from adamandeve.com.
Casino casino. People gotta win sometime.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a giant, colorful check to deposit.
Welcome to another edition of Beating the House. I'm Doug Weishuttle here with Dave Weishuttle. We're going to be crisscrossing the country, sometimes the continent, sometimes even the world, talking about the latest jackpots in the lottery and casino industries. If it's $100,000 or more, we will be talking about it on this show. News, press releases, jackpot announcements, game releases, info at TurnpikeSportsRadio.com. Keep those coming in. We're going to start off the jackpots portion of our program going out to California and the Pechanga Resort Casino.
Okay.
Now, this story we're going to be talking about is a perfect example of a good use of casino loyalty points.
Okay. All right.
We have a couple going to celebrate their wedding anniversary. They were going to do a staycation, which means they were going in their own backyard and just going to the casino. They had some
like
easy
a day, like a day
credits.
trip,
Yeah.
like a kind of day.
Well, no,
trip.
they were going to stay over and
Oh,
everything else.
okay.
They were going to do a little staycation away from home, but they were still in their neighborhood.
Oh well, staycation is you're staying at home. That's the whole idea about staycation.
Well, this is basically their home. If you think about it, they're right in their backyard.
Okay.
So they had some easy play credits on their cards, so they decided to do this the night at the casino.
Okay.
They had dinner. And they were going back to their room to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
The wife told the husband, maybe just play a couple hands.
Sure, why not?
So he dumped $100 into the IGT's Mega Bucks Mega Vault. And he was going to do a couple spins.
Mm-hmm.
So he started doing what people normally do, $3 to $5 spins.
Sure.
And figured, you know what? He decided, let me go a little bigger.
Sure.
So he decided playing $10 a spin.
Okay.
First 10 did nothing. The second 10 he hit for a $4,178,889.94 Mega Bucks jackpot.
Wow, that's great. That's a typical story of a casino. You have dinner or show sometimes, and you're walking back to your room. You're walking through the gaming floor. Hey, you know what? I got some money in my pocket, and we're in a casino. Might as well throw some money into a machine.
Yes.
and it absolutely pays off.
And they have been doing this at the Pechanga since 2017 when they first won $17,000 on their first overnight stay.
That's their lucky casino.
I guess
everyone
so.
has a casino, their go-to casino. So I guess Pechanga is theirs.
Well, we're going to be leaving California.
All right.
And we're heading out to Nevada for the Virgin Las Vegas Hotel and Casino. We've never done a Virgin Las Vegas jackpot.
Okay.
And here we have Whitney Houston slot machine on a $3 bet, paying off $1,515,034.61.
Wow, that's great.
Yes, and this was I think we've all seen what the Whitney Houston does. It has certain different bonus features.
It's first off, they get music, and it's got the pictures and the video and stuff like it's great. It's if you're a big fan of Whitney Houston, or if you're a big fan of winning money, check out the Whitney Houston.
I'm in the latter group, not the former. But what the person did, $3 bet, landed the Platinum Progressive bonus, which just skyrocketed the money to the $1 million jackpot.
Wow, million! How much they win?
$1.5 million.
$1.5 million.
Yes.
Huh? Wow.
Leaving Nevada, we're heading back to California, and we're going back to Sky River Casino.
Huh. Okay.
Yes, we have a Lodi resident hitting a mega jackpot.
Wait, Lodi, California. There's a Lodi, New Jersey too.
Yes.
The famous thing in Lodi, New Jersey, if you're a Sopranos fan, is the Bada Bing Gentlemen's Club.
Yes.
So it's not
which
called
is closed down now.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
We went there for a bachelor party one time. It's not called Bada Bing. I don't remember what it was called, but that became a kind of a landmark because of the Sopranos. So so. Lodi, New Jersey, but we're talking about Lodi, California.
Lodi, California, and we're actually in Elk Grove, California with
right.
Sky River Casino. We have the $10 bet on the Dollar Storm Mega Grand slot, which landed the Dollar Storm Mega Grand Link Progressive jackpot of $754,066. And this is the second week we're covering Sky River Casino because this is 2 weeks in a row we've had a big jackpot at Sky River.
Same machine? I can't remember.
No, the other one was a blackjack.
Okay.
Blackjack jackpot, blackjack jackpot.
Okay.
511 grand.
Okay.
So
all right.
500 one week, 750
Wow.
another week.
Look
So
at
then they did this in the press release. Local winners, because the other guy was actually Elk Grove. He was from the same town where the casino's in.
Okay.
1.2 million, 1,265,000 in 2 weeks given out.
Okay, great.
Leaving California, we're going back to Nevada.
Okay. It's all California and Nevada this week, huh?
Not yet. We're not done yet.
okay.
We got one that is not over on the West Coast.
Oh, okay. Boy, it's a big West Coast-centric kind of report here. Okay.
Well, we actually have our first table game of the week.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the Link Hotel and Experience, which is a member of the Caesars Rewards Club.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Caesars property. It's the one with the big wheel in front.
Sure.
Yeah. We've got a guest named Juliana winning a mega jackpot by hitting a royal flush on 3-card poker on her first hand sitting down at the table.
First hand? Wow.
Very first hand. She
Okay.
wins $494,420 bucks.
That's an efficient use of time.
Yes.
Wow.
Didn't waste any time.
No.
Just sat down,
Boy.
boom. Give me the money.
Did she keep playing or
No words on whether or not.
I need to know that weird kind of stuff. That's why you win like almost $500,000. Do you keep playing? Do you get the ticket or whatever happens when you win? I haven't won $500,000, so I don't know what the hell happens. But you get the jackpot, and what do? You keep playing? You go get dinner or go whatever. I don't know.
Well, first of all, you got to stop playing so they can give you.
I guess
yeah.
Bells and whistles
because they got to
go
double
off
check
or-
everything.
Yeah,
they got to
okay.
process the paperwork,
Yeah.
all that stuff. You have to stop playing.
Okay. So there you go.
Yeah.
So
Staying in Nevada, we're actually leaving Las Vegas and going to Henderson.
okay.
We're going to Sunset Station in Henderson for another table game. We've got our first Pai Gow jackpot in a while.
Pai
We
Gow.
haven't had Pai Gow in a while.
At one point we were having Pai Gow every week.
Yes. And this is the linked Pai Gow progressive jackpot, which means it is hooked into all the station casinos in Nevada.
Okay.
7-card straight flush on Pai Gow, $437,569 jackpot. And that was reset back down to $300,000. So the link jackpot
That's a good starting
starts at
point.
$300,000.
That's a good starting point.
Yes. Going to be leaving Nevada now for our last casino jackpot of the week.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to New Jersey.
Okay.
The Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, Atlantic City.
We're just there.
Yes.
Okay.
We have a Long Island man going down to the boardwalk and playing the Huff and Even More Puff game.
Oh, okay.
Now that's the
that's
the brand new extension of the Huff and Puff line.
There's a Huff and Puff, which is the original.
Then Huff and More Puff.
Huff and More Puff. Oh, and this is Huff and Even More Puff.
Right.
Okay, so this is like the third
Yeah.
sequel, I guess
Right.
you call it. So
Yeah, and there's also Money Mansion and something else
okay.
too. And yeah,
Right.
Hard Hat or something. There's
The-
all different variations.
The Huff
of,
and Puff universe.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's a whole lot. Everyone seems to love the Huff and Puff. games.
Yeah. Hey, we're talking about a jackpot coming
Yeah.
up, so I guess that's why people love it.
This was a $10 bet on
Okay.
the Huff and Even More Puff game. No word on how long this guy was playing,
Mm-hmm.
but the machine hit the Super Wheel feature, which is the bonus feature, and the person won $164,441 at the Hard Rock Atlantic City.
That's great. That's
Yes.
nice. And by the way, this is the point a lot of people are making about the specter of New York City area casinos coming up. This guy was a Long Island man. If
Yes.
there were New York City area casinos, I know a lot of people in New Jersey, Atlantic City would be thinking, oh, he wouldn't make that trip to Atlantic City. So that was an interesting point that,
Well, unless he
hopefully,
likes...
one great thing that Atlantic City has is the sand and the
boardwalk.
ocean, the boardwalk. So,
Hey,
So-
he could be a fan of Angelo's or Tony's Baltimore Grill for all
yeah,
he could be
those
going
are
down for the
those
food.
are popular restaurants
Yes.
down there.
He could be going down for the food more so than the casino,
absolutely.
but you never know. But,
no, that's the you said it was a Long Island man. That's
Yes.
that's one of those things where Atlantic City gets a lot of weekend people from
Yeah.
the New York City area. If there were casinos up there, a lot of people are thinking in New Jersey that maybe they wouldn't make that trip.
or it's tradition. A lot of people
Yeah.
do the tradition thing, so you don't know. Well, that's it for this week's Beat in the House. I'll be back next week with a collection of all new jackpots, both lottery and casino, and probably even some game or news announcements. As always, we only do $100,000 or more. There's a lot of people out there that have won jackpots of all sizes, so congratulations to the ones we talked about. Congratulations to everyone we didn't have a chance to talk about on this show, so congratulations, everybody. info@turnpikesportsradio.com. Keep the announcements coming up.
Well, that'll do it for us this week. We'll see you next time with House of Cards.
Drag a spotted chain across the desert plain. You build a house of cards around a loveless